Hello friends, this is Adam with Movie Guide 365, and today I'm going to review the 4K edition of the 007 Daniel Craig box set. Please hit the like button, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and put out videos every single day. You can also find me over Twitter and Instagram at Movie Guide 365, as well as over the Disney Magic Hour podcast. I will leave a link for that in the description. All right, it is here, the 007 box set featuring the 4 films of Daniel Craig up to date. We all know that there's a 5th film coming, and it's his final film, apparently. You know, who knows. But anyway, that's supposed to due out in the next year or two. And we, of course, have these 4 films now released by MGM here in 4K. So, my thoughts on, I'm not a big fan of incomplete box sets. I know Universal likes to do this, especially with their Fast and Furious films. They've done this with Jurassic Park. That's just in the 4K format. And I like a complete box set, or I prefer actually individual releases, but there's no word yet if we are getting individual releases down the line. It would be nice if they did, and that kind of puts my slight OCD, a little bit more at peace. Anyway, as far as the movies go, I'm going to review these slightly different than I normally do. We're going to do the normal unboxing that I do with every video and the release, but I'm going to talk about the audio first because I feel that they're pretty much kind of on par with what we've gotten before. Now, I just really want to touch on also the individual scores for picture quality, because I think that's what a lot of people are interested in, and we'll do those, movie by movie, and that'll give you my overall grade. So let's do a quick unboxing, and then let's dive into this thing and talk about the picture quality and the audios. Okay, we have the Daniel Craig 007 box set here in 4K. Now, for whatever reason, they decided to include the Blu-rays as well. As you can see here, we got a separate Blu-ray case as well as the 4K case here. So there's our front cover, and we do have our back information there. And of course, we have the spine. So just really quickly show you at least they aesthetically match, so we got that going for us. So we do have that. That's for the standard Blu-ray, and of course just your standard discs inside. And of course we have the 4K sets here. And like I said, aesthetically they match each other, so that we have at least that going for us. But all right, and of course inside, nothing special, artwork, individual. Every movie gets an individual disc, as it should be. So yeah, there we go as far as the box set goes. So let's break these down and talk about the picture quality and the audio. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to review the audio first because I feel that there's really not much to explain over like what we got in the previous Blu-rays. Now we are given a DTS 5.1. This is how it was presented, the exact same track that we got on our previous Blu-ray editions. So if you've had those, you know what you're in for. They're overly robust tracks. There was a lot of good surround sound action. And this being a action-heavy movie with moments of quiet and dialogue, there's a nice healthy balance with the audio tracks. As I mentioned, all 4 of the films are identical to their Blu-ray counterparts in the audio department, so I'm not really going to dive deep in, but the surround sounds sound great. We got front channels are no problems whatsoever. Center channel, very easy to understand dialogue, and the LFE kicks in at appropriate times. I would have liked to have seen a bump up in immersive audio as an Atmos or even a DTS-X, but I have to wonder if this was director intended. We know that directors like Christopher Nolan prefer the 5.1 surround sound experience. So I'm not sure if this was intended here for all of the films, but it is what it is. We get a 5.1. If you've watched the Blu-ray before in your surround sound, you know what you're in for. There's no great enhancement. It's pretty much the identical track. So that being said, we're going to dive into all the 4 films individually. So we're going to start with Casino Royale, and let's go right into it. So all the Bond releases have been given a Dolby Vision color grading as far as 4K goes. Now, it goes beyond color grading, of course. There is a fine amount of detail. There is the black levels. There's a lot of just the overall enhancement of the picture in 4K. Now, Casino Royale, being the first film, of course, is going to be the oldest film in the Daniel Craig era. I always felt that was a nice looking picture. I felt the outdoor scenes look great. There's a lot of that good European countryside that we get here, and we are further enhanced by the 4K, of course, and Dolby Vision. It looks great. It is I feel, a very significant bump over the Blu-ray, but I would not say this is reference quality. It's the best we've seen it in Bond, but I can't help but it's just kind of not quite there. I've definitely seen better films even recently this week that just look really, really good utilizing the Dolby Vision. I think it's a nice bump up, but it's not going to be like a revelation to you. Like I said, I think the highlights for as far as Dolby Vision go are, of course, outdoor scenes I think look the best. Black levels are appropriately dark and they look pretty inky at times. It looks really nice. There's a fair amount of detail. Everything from Bond's suits to the countryside, the general aesthetics, they all look really, really good. There's a nice enhancement, but I can't help but wonder that there's probably a little bit more they could have done with this. As I said, it's not reference quality, but I feel a good bump over the standard Blu-ray. I'm going to give that Casino Royale's overall picture, probably I would grade this one a B. So let's talk about Quantum of Solace. Okay, jumping into Quantum of Solace, which pretty much this is a two-part Bond film. I know it's not, they don't officially do that, but it essentially is. All the results of the things that have happened in Casino Royale carry over to this film. It's a direct continuation. Now, as far as overall picture quality goes, I always felt this one was not the best. It looks a lot different than Casino Royale. Casino Royale is kind of a clean image overall, but this one kind of has a little bit of a murkiness to it. I think a lot of it has to do with the location, cinematography. It's an overall different feel to the film than obviously Casino Royale. That's not a bad thing necessarily, but I feel that if you're going to apply your 4K, your Dolby Vision, you at least want to kind of raise the bar a little bit, considering the film was made a couple years earlier than that. So I would like to see a little bit more to this picture. It's not quite there. I would not even say this is a hugely significant bump over the standard Blu-ray. The Blu-ray I always felt didn't look great. I think it's just overall how the film was shot that kind of lends itself to this kind of look. Now I'm going to touch on this again when we get to Spectre, but as far as Quantum of Solace goes, it is probably, I feel, the weakest of the four films as far as 4K goes. It does look okay. It does look good. And I can tell a lot of difference between the standard Blu-ray. I was A and Bing the Blu-rays with all these movies. And I would say of the four, this is definitely the weakest. It definitely had some issues as far as giving you that extra bang for your buck if you're a 4K guy. It's just, 4K is supposed to give you that extra added something, and I don't feel it quite gets you there. It's almost a lazy bump up, in my opinion. It does look good. As I said, there's a lot of scenes, but I think a lot of it has to do with cinematography. Now there is a little bit of appropriate levels of film grain, and I did detect a slight, bit of DNR here and there touched in. It's not something constant. It's not something you would see all the time, but it is present as far as the overall scope of the movie goes. If you know what you're looking for, you will find it. Black levels look good. There's a fair amount of detail that looks great. Everything, as I mentioned before, Bond suits, general aesthetics of the area, they all look good. There's a lot of enhancement as far as detail goes. This is definitely not a reference quality, and I say just a little step down from Casino Royale. So if I'm going to give this one an overall score, I'll give this one a C+. It definitely could have been better. So, all right, enough about Quantum of Solace. Let's touch on my personal favorite of the Bond films, Skyfall. One of the things I've always loved about Skyfall, and it is, as I said, personally my favorite of the Bond films, is a lot of it has to be attributed not only to the director, Sam Mendes, but of course the cinematographer, Roger Deakins. I mean, the man is legendary. He knows how to shoot a film. He knows what goes into the camera. And while he's not personally a fan of HDR or Dolby Vision, his films, when they are applied, so if you go back and look at Blade Runner 2049, they are fully utilizing what he puts up for as far as in front of the camera. Now this is also, and I know it sounds slightly biased because it is my favorite of the films. It is the best looking of the 4K set. We do get a lot of that beautiful HDR pop. Dolby Vision looks fantastic. There's a lot of scenes, especially when Bond is hunting the one guy and he's in the skyscraper at the top of the building, and you've got that nice color palette. That thing is demo worthy in my opinion. It looks fantastic. It's an overall great looking image. It's not, I would say it does touch that line of reference quality a little bit, but you can't help but you're thinking of the other films in the set. This is the one you would want to really demo to your friends. As I said, Dolby Vision looks great as far as color levels go, and I feel that the black levels are very nice inky blacks. There's a lot of scenes that take place at night and in dark areas, rooms, so forth and so on, that look fantastic. Fair amount of detail here. It looks really, really good. Everything just looks great. There was a couple scenes early on in the film that are particularly detail oriented, and I feel just overall it's an excellent looking image. it's really it really is attributed to Roger Deakins, and the man is just so good at shooting a movie. It's definitely one of those, like, if you know his work, you know what to expect. And as I said, he's not a huge fan personally of HDR, but you know, I think it is utilized brilliantly here. It doesn't, I don't feel, take away from his vision. It's an overall beautiful looking disc. I kind of wish they released these separately, because I might have just focused on Skyfall in my opinion. But it is a good looking film. Towards the end, the climax, we got that nice little hazy grayness to it, the overall picture. It looks good. It's a very nice looking image. It really is. So, all right, that's it about Skyfall. I would give Skyfall, as far as a grade, I would give this one an A-. I think it looks fantastic. Not quite reference quality, but it really just goes up to the line, and it is my personal favorite of the films, as well as I think the best looking disc. All right, let's talk a little bit about Spectre. Now, while Skyfall I feel is my favorite film, Spectre is definitely not my favorite film of the Daniel Craig. I think it's probably my least favorite, in all honesty. I don't know, something just kind of went wrong overall with the storytelling. I feel it was too similar to what we got over there in Quantum of Solace. And now also the picture quality itself, you know, touching on that for a little bit, it is probably, I would say, the cleanest of the 4 films. It definitely has less film noise, anything like that. I believe it was shot digitally for this one. And overall, it is actually a nice looking image, but the film itself just generally kind of straddles that sepia tone for the most part. But I think, you know, if you're okay with that overall, like, filmmaker aesthetic, this is actually an overall clean looking image. I didn't really have any issues with it. I just wish we had like a good demo scene as far as that goes. It's just, there's not really one particular scene that unfortunately stands out to me, but it's an overall pleasing looking image. It's, you know, as I mentioned, a little bit heavy on the sepia, but it's just kind of like one of those, you know, just filmmaker choices we have to deal with. But anyway, as far as Dolby Vision goes, lots of good color enhancement there. Just, you know, black levels look fantastic, and detail looks just very crisp. A lot of scenes that really just make use of that Dolby Vision. It does look really, really good. It's not shot quite because unfortunately Roger Deakins did not shoot this one, but for what we got here, just overall cleanness I think is the winner here. It's of the 4 films. It definitely has that level of detail, and it's just an overall pleasing image. Once again, sepia. Anyway, so, all right, so let's talk about my overall impressions. I gave, as far as Spectre goes, I give this one A- as well, but for different reasons than I gave Skyfall. It's just overall, I think Skyfall was shot better, but this one is definitely a cleaner looking image. So I'll give you my overall impressions of the 007 box set. So do I think that you should be picking up the 007 4K box set with Daniel Craig? That's kind of a loaded question, but you know, my personal feelings aside of incomplete box sets, I'm first and foremost a believer of the format. I feel that most times that while we don't get quite native 4K resolution as far as just what we get from the studios, upscales even look good. Now, should you drop your money on this? I would say yes if you're a Bond fan. If you're a true Bond fan and you really want this, I think it's worth the money. Barring all those other issues aside about the new movie coming out and what blah blah blah. That's the stuff that's really your personal preference. If you want these now, I say yes, support the format. Show MGM that we want more Bond films. I mean, I would love a properly restored, you know, Connery box set. I want a box set of all the films. I would honestly really just invest in those. We have seen studios really put magic on older films. I mean, we're getting ready to get Wizard of Oz and It's a Wonderful Life, and early reports indicate that those look amazing. So anything that takes place in the 60s, 70s, properly restored, will look fantastic on the format. I feel they did miss a little bit as far as audio goes. Once again, we don't know if that's director intent or whatnot, or a studio decision, but if you want the best looking picture, this definitely overall, I feel, is worth the bump up in quality. If you're just a casual fan and you have the films and you're like, I may or may not upgrade anyway. No, it's really just kind of really up to you. I honestly think it was worth the upgrade. I was very glad to see, you know, the changes they made with Dolby Vision that just looked really, really good. A more naturalistic overall film. Even if the overall tones and director and cinematographer choices varied from film to film for the most part, I think overall it's a very good looking box set. I think it's worth the purchase. So let me know in the comments below if you picked up the 007 box set with Daniel Craig in 4K and what your thoughts were. I'm very anxious to hear your ideas and thoughts in the comments below. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. I put out videos every single day. So until next time, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365. I will see you at the movies.